Welcome
I'm
back
not
from
sure if
Hawaii.
I'm in Los Angeles, California right now, my friend, but I'm not sure if I am the brain because I spent last year the Hockey Hall of Fame $32 on a Hartford Whalers hat, and I actually remember thinking to myself, I'm getting ripped off here, but I did it anyway.
So, listen, he said it was 45?
Yeah, but there, I
45.
but no, but
So
even at
actually,
32, I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable because
yeah,
I had the
well,
same exact thing as you. I'm like anything above $25, hand on the Bible. It was the number of me was $25, no BS. I'm like, man, I'm getting ripped off here, and it was hard for me to do it. It wasn't because I can't afford. It was just the principle. I'm like, I
no,
shouldn't have to spend more than $25 for a hat,
for a hat, no,
and it
20.
annoyed me. The Hockey
Yes.
Hall of Fame, I did it, whatever. But I have my heart for Whalers hat.
That's cool, man. How was,
Yeah.
now you were in Hawaii.
Hawaii was great. Was there for about
What
4 nights.
islands?
Maui. Maui had a really
Nice.
nice time. Beautiful there. Got some nice photos. Had a good time with the fam, and it was a good trip, my friend. Now I'm in LA to visit my son briefly, just for a 2 night little thing here, and then I'll be back in Florida for a few days. Then I'm off to St. Bart's, Anthony. I mean, I got so much stuff going on,
St.
man. And then
Bart's.
I
How
never been
about the
there.
big brain? See, that's what happens when you follow the brain and you bet under. You go to Hawaii, you go to St. Bart's. All right, you're all over the place.
It's
The
part of the
brain
stuff,
is the daily
man.
grind brought to you by the
Yeah,
fabulous Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. Don't forget Bet Parks. All right, let's talk
yeah,
about this for a second. NBA
yeah.
Finals is set, and I think you and I are going to agree.
We
We
do.
both love
Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas. Yeah, Anthony, listen, it's very interesting to me, and I know we haven't really spoke about it in great detail, but look at everyone's talking about what Boston's done, okay? And I again, as a sports gambler, as a bettor, I can't just look at it like, look, as a coach, Boston won 4-0, right? That's all you care about. I get it. As a coach, Missoula's like, we won it, we got out of Dodge, we beat this team, didn't get a game. That's great. As a fan, they won 4-0. That's great. Who cares? But when I look at the things, Anthony, 3 of the 4 games against Indiana with a minute to go, Boston was like a 5-1 underdog to win. They
Yeah.
again give them credit. They were magnificent in the last minute of these games and won 3 games. They were a massive, again, let me stress this again, a massive underdog in. They won. Okay. They pulled rabbits out of their hat that, I mean, tricks for kids would be proud, the cereal would be proud of with the rabbits they put out of their hat. Okay. And then the other game, the fourth game, game two, was 70-66. Halliburton gets injured. They're dead coin flip, and then Halliburton gets hurt. So I'm not like doing cartwheels here, like fawning over Boston. I'm just not doing it. I'm not saying they're not a great team. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in the finals. They do. But what I am saying is, I don't think they're going to beat Dallas. Now Porzingis is back. Maybe that's all they need. That's certainly possible.
See, I was going over the matchups, and I was having a
Sure,
debate. In fact, on my Fox show on the weekends, I
sure.
was debating this whole thing about the Dallas Bigs. To me, is a bad matchup for Boston
Yeah,
because Gafford and Lively, and the way Lively's playing,
he's
Gafford and
unbelievable.
Lively, I think, are going to make it uncomfortable for Boston, and that Porzingis does not help that situation.
It's interesting, Anthony. I go back, and I don't know if you ever do this stuff when you see guys thriving in the NBA. I go back to watching Lively at Duke. I mean, he played a little bit. I think he played like 18 minutes a game. He was athletic. He was a good shot blocker, but I didn't think he was coming. He averaged, I looked it up last night because I was curious. He averaged 5 points and 5 rebounds at Duke. Okay. Now, again, I did not think seeing the way he played at Duke, because if you watch these playoff games, this guy is flat out phenomenal. I mean, his energy level, what he provides defensively, his rim protection, his lobs of getting the baskets, his offensive rebounding, his defense, everything. Like he's terrific. Like I watched the guy, I'm like, wow, like he's just a stud. Now I don't know if that was because Duke just, I don't know, whatever it was. But you watch this kid, and maybe he's just more of a really good player, not a stat guy, that's going to come in college and dominate. But I'm incredibly impressed with him, Anthony.
Well, and, giving credit too was a guy that I liked before Doc Rivers was Jason Kidd, and look at
Yeah,
how he used him. I mean, it's amazing because I thought I didn't think that Luca and and Kyrie would work. I thought it was
Sure.
fun, but I didn't think it would work to this
No one
degree.
did.
But Kyrie has played his ass off. Like he's
Yeah,
played
for sure.
so well. He tried on the other end. He's not dominating the basketball. Look at his shoot. When he wants to play, he's an elite player, right? So the two of them they're impossible to stop because you need to blitz them, right? And so you blitz them, and the next thing you know, you got their bigs, and here's the guy I think is an X factor and why Dallas is going to win. PJ Washington. I think PJ Washington is going to have a monster series.
Anthony, it kind of reminds me when the Sixers had the number 1 pick in the draft, right? And they passed on Tatum, which famously from Markelle Fultz. But as bad as that pick was, that Markelle Fultz pick, as you know, became Tyrese Maxey. To me, Dallas famously, let Brunson go. But because of that, they got Kyrie. So kind of same thing a little bit where they made a really bad move, but at least it turned out like, okay, well, we got someone else great in there as well. Look, I agree with you, Anthony. I think Dallas is going to win the series. I like them. You can get them, Anthony, I think on Parks. I didn't look exactly what it was. I briefed at it. I think you get them to win 2 games or more minus around 215 or so. I just don't think Boston's going to win this in 5 or 4. I'll tell you that. I would be very, very surprised. I could definitely see Boston winning, but I would be shocked if Boston just wins the series easy. I think Dallas will win the series, and I like them in Anthony in game 1. They're getting 6.5 points. I don't get it. I feel like I'm missing something.
Because of what you said earlier, the fact that they sweep, like
the optics of it,
there's an air of it. Like I think that's why. A couple things. One, there's an air about Boston.
Sure.
2, they sweep, even though we know it was a half a Fugazi sweep.
Yeah.
Because when you look into the Halliburton injury and you look at kind of what happened and you go deeper into it, so you kind of look at, and I don't think people really like Dallas. I don't think they realize
clearly
how good
not.
Dallas is.
It's interesting. They were, and listen. I always say in this business, you have a choice: either be consistent or being right. And a lot of the line makers were consistent in a bad way, and that they were making a game 1. Listen to this, Anthony. Game 1, Minnesota's laying 4.5 against Dallas. Dallas certainly showed through 4 games they were, these were at least even teams. They made game 5 the highest line of that series, 5.5. And the games in Dallas, Dallas was only laying like 1.5. So they were not giving Dallas any credit of like, well, you know what, maybe we got this one wrong. Maybe our power ratings on Dallas were a little bit too low. And listen, in these playoffs, Anthony, you have to be ready to adjust your power ratings quickly. Because I know, Anthony, you're a matchup guy. And again, if you see the matchup is not necessarily favoring the team that's favored to win, you got to say, all right, man, listen, maybe the wrong team is favored here, and be willing to adjust and not be stubborn and stuck on your power ratings that may not be relevant in a particular matchup.
I don't know if you looked at props or whatever, but
yeah.
PJ Washington, I would look consistently over his points.
I like him over 11.5. That was one I did see. I wrote down a list of like 15 of them, believe it or not. Haven't given any of them out yet. I have to go in a deeper dive. But PJ Washington was 11.5, Anthony, his points. I thought it was too low. That was one of the ones that made my list. Look, I agree. I think this guy has become, without him, certainly Gafford's been very effective. But again, to me, PJ Washington's really more that third scorer they, kind of really wanted and needed. As good as Lively is, he's not a scorer. If they didn't have PJ Washington, I don't think they'd be in this position. But again, credit to Dallas. They made those moves. And it's interesting. I have a question for you, real just off the cuff. If the Sixers had added Gafford and PJ Washington, the exact same moves that Dallas made, in your opinion, are they in the NBA Finals, or you're still saying no?
It's certainly deeper, right? Like that would have been what hurt.
That would have been
them,
huge.
Right? They got
because when Embiid was out,
glass,
yeah,
right?
and Embiid was, yeah,
and they were forced to play Embiid all those minutes,
and he couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I think they certainly win the next 2 series, and then you're playing Boston. Yeah. Well,
again, it's interesting, and you got to give Dallas a lot of credit because those were 2 moves. Let's be honest, Anthony. They didn't give up like 96 first-round picks to get these guys, right? These were picks. These were trades that you theoretically, if Sixers one of those 2 guys, you could have done it. Now, again, am I saying that I thought that adding Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington were the missing links? And I'm not going to sit here and lie my butt off saying that. But again, if you're the GM of the team and you see who's available, certainly those guys have shown coming from where they've come, that yeah, maybe this would be a team that would be in the finals right now and be the favorite to win the
You,
championship if they had made those exact same moves.
you know what's interesting? You know who did think that?
Who?
Tim Legler. So
Well, Legs is a very smart guy.
Legs said on the show, yeah, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. He
Very
said, you know,
smart guy.
they did an NBA trade deadline show, ESPN, right? So
Yeah,
they took
yeah.
out all the big trades, all the big moves.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he said, listen, are we going to talk about PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford?
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, we don't have time. He said, I think that are the most important among the most important moves in the whole deadline. And he proved correct.
You know, it's interesting. One of my betting partners at the time of the trade goes to me. He goes, Brad, I made a huge bet on Dallas, 45-1 to win the title, 20-1 to win the West. He goes, these two, they're going to win the West right now. And I'm like, I think it's a little bit over exuberance, my friend. And he's like, no. He goes, they needed those kind of guys who can help to add defensively. They only had Lively as a rim protector. Now they have two. They needed a third scorer. PJ is going to be that. And I love credit to him and his bank account now.
20-1? Wow.
They were 20-1 to win the West. I did add a little, like I waited like 4 games. They won their first 4 games. I took them at like 16. So I did win a little bit on that, but
16-1. Damn.
to win the West. But it's funny though. They were 20 and like 40 or whatever. But I knew the better bet was the West because I knew against Boston these teams were going to be, either whether it's justified or not, we're going to be a huge underdog. And again, for everyone watching, I agree with you. You can get around, I think, around plus 180, plus 185 on Parks right now. And again, I think that Dallas is extremely live in this series.
Wow, I'm actually really looking forward to it too.
So am I, but I'm rooting so hard for this series. It is. I got to ask you. It's funny. I heard a guy in another podcast saying right now today, and I didn't necessarily agree with him, but I can't say he's definitely wrong. He was like saying how Tatum, not counting Embiid, I don't know if you count Embiid as American or not, because I think he switched citizenship. I'm not positive, but is Jason Tatum the best American player in the NBA today? And he's like, not a question about it. He is, but I don't know if he's definitely better than Anthony Edwards.
No, I didn't know if it was. I mean, listen, the thing about Tatum is he's got to. I had this whole argument with Tatum. Like, listen, he needs to step up. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, Giannis took a lot of criticism, step up and won it, right? He's come up small at a lot of moments. So right away, somebody brings up the stats while he's averaging 25, 10, 5,
of course the stats are going to be good.
He's a front runner. Like,
exactly.
Big games, he'll get you 38, 15, 7 assists, but then you lose and he's nowhere to be found. Like, he should have lost to the Sixers last year.
No, that game 6, Anthony, I remember being in attendance. Sixers were up 2 with the ball, 4 minutes to go, and at the time, Tatum was like 2 of 17. He ended up hitting like a couple shots at the end, which salvaged one of the worst all-time games in NBA history. But you're right, and you're being fair. Tatum has not really gotten it done in that thing, but now he has a chance, right? As a over 2-1 favorite, having home court advantage, having every advantage in the world to cement his legacy. And Boston, listen, let's be honest, Boston has a lot of pressure here. They've lost, it seems like, how many conference finals and NBA finals in the last 8 years in this group? I think 5 or 6, starting in the Final Four. They've lost like 6 in a row or whatever it is. So, I mean, this is their chance to shine. I am praying. I'm going like praying they lose. I can't stand this team. Nothing will make me happier. You will see a smile that you've never seen before in your life if Boston does not win the series. But I really do think Dallas has a good chance. Not my rooting interest, just being objective about it, Anthony. And I think it's going to be a great, exciting series. So I will say that. I'll be very surprised if this is not a good series from Anthony. We always talk about it. It's the games that come down to the end. Who wins them? And we know that. We know that.
All right, what do you got for us tonight? Don't forget you can follow at Brad's Best Bets on Twitter and bradsbestbets.com. Nobody does it better as he's going to Hawaii and St. Bart's.
Had a good 7-0 night in Hawaii, Anthony. It's funny. I've been doing my site for almost a year now, and I usually give up a lot of volume. I've had a 10-1 night, an 11-1 night. Never had an undefeated night. I had a 7-0 night there tonight. But anyway, game for the night. Oh, just one play today, but it's a game I like. I like the Detroit Tigers in the 5-inning line. We have the best pitcher in the world, or tied best pitcher in the world. Skubal and Wheeler are probably the 2 best pitchers in baseball right now. Skubal, you can get him on the Park site right now, minus $1.18. Eovaldi's decent, but again, I will take Skubal, unless it's Zack Wheeler, against anyone and basically a pick 'em game through the 5 inning line. Again, we're getting out of Dodge after the 5th inning, Anthony. You get it.
I still don't think people realize how good he is.
They don't. He's the Cy Young favorite by a wide margin. He's plus 150, I think, to win the Cy Young. Far and away the biggest favorite of anyone. But I like Skubal in the 5 inning line again. But once the game's after 5 innings and Kubel, let's say Skubal goes 6 innings, I have no interest in betting the Tigers bullpen against the Rangers lineup. But for 5 innings, sign me up like that. And by the way, Anthony, I did bet Zack Wheeler plus 350 to win Cy Young last week when I was in Hawaii. Look, I just think he's going to win it. I think it's his year. I think he's the best pitcher, and Ranger Suarez is a great story. I don't think he's going to get it done. I really believe Zack Wheeler is going to win the Cy Young Award. 3.5 to 1, I think is worth a shot.
Yeah, I like that. Of course, Zach is going tonight against
yes, sir.
Milwaukee's a team you got to worry about, though.
Let me tell you something.
Their lineup is good.
Anthony, great. I got to tell you something. I give you credit for realizing that. No one I talk to who knows sports has said they're like 3rd or 2nd in Major League Baseball in runs scored. And again, listen, would you rather be consistent? Would you rather be right? I thought Milwaukee's lineup sucked before the year. I'm like, this team is trash. I bet they're under. I'm going to lose. But I've adjusted, been betting them to win the division, a lot of money recently, and they're now up, I think, 7 games, something like that. Anthony, their lineup has been extremely good.
Well, the kid Terang, the second baseman, he's really
improved like crazy.
Yeah,
he's improved like crazy.
Contreras have off
Adames has been great. Yelich has been the best player in the league. Yeah, I mean, they're scoring a lot of runs, like you said, Anthony. And when Peralta pitches, they were like 16 to 1 to win the pennant the other day, and I was tempted. I'm like, I don't think they're as good as obviously Philly or the Dodgers, but it's like, look, we know in baseball you don't have to be as good, and they're scoring a lot of runs. So yeah, I mean, this is a plucky team for sure, Anthony. And I would usually love to take Wheeler run line against almost anyone, but I actually do have respect for this Brewers team, so I laid off it.
Yeah, makes sense. Big Brain, always a pleasure, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, buddy. I'll speak to you soon.
There he is, the Brain.
We all silly like the mayor.